Okay, so today we will see the Jms binding. Okay, we'll see the Jms binding. So this AMX, okay, the AMX can be or AMX grid. Okay, the AMX grid can be it can be acting as queue receiver. Okay, it can be queue receiver, or it can also act as queue sender. Okay, it can also act as queue sender. So we'll do two things. So first we'll make the grid as a queue sender and BW as queue receiver. Okay, and similarly, so we'll make BW as queue sender and grid we'll make this grid as queue receiver. Okay, so I'm going to create two queues. Okay, so these are the queues that I have created. Okay. So I'll specify queue receiver. So I'm going to specify the connection, and I'm going to specify God, the hell is this? So I will specify the connection as, so it will be, the request will be coming from grid, so I will specify grid to BW. Now what message type you will be specifying? Okay, what message type you will be specifying here? Now when you are using this Jms binding, okay, when you are using Jms binding, so it will be like this. So it will be XML over JMS. Okay, the data has to be XML, and it will be transported on the. It will be the data will be XML, and that will be transported using JMS. Okay, so we should specify the message type as XML text. Okay, we should specify the message type as XML text. So I am going to use XML text. Okay, I am going to use XML text, and then so we have to specify the schema. Okay, we have to specify the schema. So we have configured an XML schema. Okay, we have configured an XML schema. So this schema, so I am going to use. Okay, I'm going to use this schema. Okay, so the schema is here. So I'm going to import that. Okay, so select plus. Okay, I'm going to use loan request. So now we have the receiver here. Now from here, I will configure one new composite. Okay. So file new. So TIBCO server resources. So project. Next. Okay, Jms composite. Okay, empty server project. Next. So everything, even if you're working with the JMS, okay, even if you're working with the JMS, so still you have to use WSDL files. Okay, so in SOA, everything must be WSDL only. So whatever transport you're using doesn't matter. So it has to be WSDL only. So we have already created one WSDL. So I'm going to take that WSDL. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take the WSDL. I'll just copy this WSDL over there. Okay, now, so we have the WSDL. So as I said, we'll be pushing the request. So I'm going to use Jms Mediation. So select Jms Mediation and then specify that. I mean, whatever you want to use, you can use. You can use Java, or you can use Mediation, or you can use web app also. So whatever you want to use, you can use. Take Mediation, I'll specify. Okay, Jms. And since you are sending out requests from grid, okay, you are sending out requests from grid to the BW, so you have to configure the reference. So right now, AMX is acting as a JMS client or the queue sender, the BW acting as queue receiver. So since AMX is client, you need to configure reference. So select component reference and then so configure WSDL and select the WSDL file from the project. Okay, send for a manual approval bit. I'm going to use this. So this time you have to use promote. Okay, in the previous example, so you have promoted service. If you see the previous one, so you have promoted the service. Only services we have promoted because we were calling them. But this time AMX wants to access some external services. Okay, it wants to access some external services. So that's why you have to promote the reference. So right click on it and promote it. Okay, right click on that and promote it. Now, so you have to specify through what transport you want to communicate with the external system or the target system. Okay, using what transport you want to communicate with the target system. So that's why, so right click on it. So select add and select Jms Binding. Okay, select add Jms Binding. Okay. Now, go to properties and then go to bindings. Okay, go to properties and go to bindings. So here you have to specify, so what's the name of the queue? Okay, you have to specify on what queue you want to post messages. Okay, on what queue you want to post the message. So this is the queue that this application is listening on. Specify this queue. Okay, specify that queue. Okay, now so it has automatically created one connection factory resource template. Okay, it has configured one connection factory resource template, and it has configured one JNDA connection template. So two things it has created. Okay, two things it has created. There you can see the JNDA template it has created, and the connection factory template also it has created. Okay, so we need to configure them. So select this JNDA. The JNDA connection configuration is similar to this one. Okay, it's similar to the JNDA configuration. Okay, so that is similar to the JNDA configuration. Okay, so select that and configure the EMS location. So you can communicate with these JMS vendors. Okay, you can connect to MQ or any other messaging providers. Okay. Okay, that's it. Now, so go to connection factory, and you have to specify the connection factory name. We have to specify connection factory name. So any of these you can specify. You can create your own and you can specify that. So I am going to use queue connection factory. Okay, I'm going to use queue connection factory. Okay. So that's it. Now let's implement this mediation. Now, so this mediation, it will only send out request. Okay, this mediation will be sending out request. Okay, it will be sending out request. But you have to pass data. Okay, you have to pass data to this. Okay, you have to pass data to this. So in order to pass data, okay, in order to pass data, so what we will do is, so you have to define one input binding. You have to define. Okay, you have to define one input binding. Okay, so but in BW you can straight away specify JMS queue sender and you can pass data. Okay, you can pass data, but here you can't do that. Okay, you cannot simply pass the data from here itself. You have to take some input data, so that only you can pass to the target system. Okay, that only you can pass to the target system. Always the data will be coming from the source applications, and that will be passing over to the target applications. Okay, so that's why I am going to define one source binding for this. So I will define one service, and same port I am going to configure. Okay, the same port I am going to configure. Okay, and I will promote this, and for this I will define soap binding so that we can enter the values from here itself. Okay, I will add soap binding. Okay, and I will give a name for this. Okay, sending request to Jms. And now I will generate the mediation. Okay, generate mediation implementation. Mediation flows and so double click and just select the operation. Okay, only you highlight the operation, that's all. So they are connected. Now here this whatever we have done, so that configuration is similar to like this. So you will be having one process and this process will be having queue sender and it will be having one soap event source like this. Okay, and this is similar to this one. Okay, now so this is done. Now so let's test this. Or if you want to send request from BW as a web service client, that also you can do. So what I will do is I will generate the concrete visitor. Okay. I'm going to specify one port. Now I will run this composite. Right click on the composite and run as composite application. Okay, so it is started. So I'm going to select this binding. So test with Web Services Explorer. I'll add some name here. Okay, there you can see you have the message. Okay. Now, so this is how you will send the JMS request from grid to the BW. Okay. And now let's see this option also. So BW will be acting as a web service client and the grid will be acting as web service provider. So what we need to do, I will just import the concrete vista. Okay, I'm going to import this concrete vista here. I'll use SOAP request reply. I will pass some parameters here. Okay, now, so this time what happens? BW will be sending request and that request will be received by this composite. Okay, will be received by this composite here, and then so from here, so it will be sending request onto JMS queue. Okay, so you can see, so you have sent the request and that request is not directly coming, so it is coming via grid. So here the BW role is web service client and here the grid role is web service provider. As a provider, it is taking the request and from here you are mediating that request and you will simply forwarding that to the JMS queue. Okay. Now the next thing is what? So this time the BW will be acting as a JMS sender, queue sender, and the grid will be acting as JMS queue receiver. Okay, so okay, send message to grid. So set a connection and I'll configure the queue. So this time it is it will be this one, so which is BW to grid. Okay, BW to grid, and change the message type to XML text. Okay, message type to XML text. Now select input editor and refer the screen. I'm going to take the response. Now, so here I will configure. Okay, so here I will configure for the same one. Okay, so for the same mediation, I will add one more service, because so this time the request is coming from BW. Okay, the request is coming from BW. So that's why what you have to do. So here you have to define the JMS promoted service. You have to define. Okay, you have to define JMS promoted service, and through that you will get the request. Okay, so I'm going to add an interface for this. So select the mediation and select component service. Okay, so install interface, and I will select ACK from approval PT and select. And this I will promote. Okay, and then so I'm going to define Jms binding for this. Okay, so add Jms binding. Okay, so you have to specify, so from which queue you want to receive the message. Okay, from which queue you want to receive the message, that you have to specify. So that is this one. Okay, excuse me. Okay, so from this queue it will receive a message. Okay, now we have to configure the generator resources. Okay, we have to configure the generator resources. Okay, so the same thing will be created. Same JNDA will be created. So specify your EMS information. And then specify the connection factory name. Okay, key connection. Now, so let's update the mediation. So since we have made some configurations, so click on that and update mediation implementation from component. Okay, update mediation implementation from component. Okay, now double click. So this is the operation. So there is no corresponding target operation. We will just consume the message. So I will drag and drop this operation into mediation path. Okay, and then I will simply specify one log activity, and then I will specify end mediation. It's a one-way operation, so I will specify end mediation. So select the log activity, and so let's log the response message. That's it. Okay, now so I'm going to run this. Okay, so I will send the request. Okay, so send message to grid. So we should get that message here. There you can see. Okay, so whenever I send request from there, we'll get that here. Okay, so that's how you can enable JMS communication for your grid. Okay, So these are the two most prominent bindings that you will be using. So one is JMS and other one is SOAP binding. Okay, and other bindings also there, like you have the REST binding you have. Okay, so other binding is also you have, so which is REST binding. Okay, you have REST binding, and you do have adapter binding and all, but adapter is not much used here. Okay, you can use it, but as I said, we are more towards the BPM, BPM course overseas. So that's why I'm not covering this adapter binding. So if our course is towards complete grid, so we will see both of them, like REST binding, adapter binding, EJB binding, and all those stuff. But since our course is towards BPM, so these two are the most widely used binding, JMS and SOAP binding. Okay. Okay. So tomorrow we'll see introduction to AMX admin. Okay. So then we will move on to BPM. For learning BPM faster, okay, if you want to learn BPM faster, you should know the administrative features. Okay, we should know the administrative features. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see the administrative features. I mean, in the following sessions we'll see AMX administration, then we'll move on to BPM. Okay, so not, it is somewhat similar to that. So more configurations are required if you want to communicate with BPM. Okay. So even if you are working with, even if you are using Jms binding, still it requires little more configuration. Okay, but more or less it will be same only. Okay. Okay. So okay guys, so we'll meet tomorrow and we will see the AMX runtime or AMX administration. Okay.